Hello everyone, I'm CJ Werleman. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and please help keep our show going and growing by supporting me at patreon.com/CJ Werleman. Now let's get into it. I've spent the past decade studying the Hindutva ideology, along with the strategies and tactics its followers use to dispossess and displace Muslims in India and Kashmir. So having kept a watchful eye on the events unfolding in the UK city of Leicester during the past several months, where radicalized Indian Hindu migrants have carried out a wave of mob lynching attacks against Muslims, I can tell you this. British Muslims have been lured into a well-laid trap, a trap set by a foe that has spent the past 5 years perfecting its genocidal tools against Muslims under the rule of Narendra Modi and BJP in India. I will describe how the Hindutva trap works in a moment, but first, here's a dirty little secret Hindu extremists have learned about Muslim minorities in recent times. They have learnt Muslims can never be the victim because Muslims, not Hindus, are inextricably tied to national security policies and discourse in both India and the United Kingdom. In other words, if Muslims are identified by government authorities to be a security threat, then they can only ever be the perpetrator of violence, not the victim of it, which is exactly how the British media is reporting attacks against Muslims by Hindus in Leicester. Watch Sky News both sides of violence by using benign phrases such as simmering tensions and clashes while calling on both sides to remain calm.
Look, again, another one. Wow.
This is what happens when simmering tensions boil over. On Saturday night, a Hindu march in Leicester led to clashes with Muslims. Bottles were thrown at police as they tried to stop the violence. After weeks of unrest.
And look at this nonsensical headline by BBC News, which describes definitive and provable Hindu perpetrated attacks against Muslims as a large-scale disorder, while giving no context to the reader about the Hindutva ideology that's responsible for this violence. But let's be clear, these details are not an accidental omission, but consistent with the mainstream media's history of dehumanizing Muslims. Last year, the Centre for Media Monitoring revealed how Muslims are repeatedly omitted as targets of violence in the UK press, which leaves audiences unable to discern perpetrator from victim, as we have seen from the reporting on Leicester. But telling the truth shouldn't be hard. It takes little intellectual honesty to explain how Muslim and Hindu communities have coexisted peacefully side by side for decades in the United Kingdom. That is until Hindu nationalist organisations began exporting the Hindutva ideology to Britain, an ideology inspired by Hitler's Nazi Party which aims to eradicate Muslims in India. And these attacks are not happening in isolation. We are witnessing similar attacks against Indian religious minorities in the US, Canada and Australia. Today, radicalised Indian Hindu migrants are marching through the streets of London, chanting Jai Shri Ram, a war cry heard by Muslims the moment before they are hacked to death in India. These scenes are now happening in the UK. Now imagine for a moment what would happen to a group of British Muslims if they marched in the streets of London chanting pro-ISIS or pro-Taliban slogans. They'd be arrested immediately under draconian UK counter-terrorism laws, stripped of their citizenship and detained indefinitely. Heck, Muslims are routinely arrested under these discriminatory laws for expressing solidarity for occupied peoples in Palestine and Kashmir. They even arrested an 11-year-old Muslim boy for offering a prayer to oppressed peoples everywhere. And they arrested my friend and academic Rizwan Sabir after accusing him of studying to be a terrorist, when in reality he was studying Islamic extremist groups for his PhD at a UK university. Muslims in India can share similar stories, but these stories are totally unfamiliar with the Hindu experience. But let me bring this back to my central point, which is this. Hindu extremists are now exploiting the way government authorities and the media portray Muslims and Islam to be a national security threat. And they're using this knowledge to set a trap for Muslims in the UK, the same way they have trapped Muslims in towns and cities throughout India. The Hindutva trap works like this. Step 1. Hold anti-Muslim hate rally. Step 2. March through Muslim neighbourhoods, threatening violence. Step 3. Provoke counter-response from local Muslim community. Step 4. Call the police who arrive on the scene to arrest Muslims. This is exactly what's happening in Leicester now, where Muslim victims are being treated as the perpetrator.
They marched through our area, past the masjid, provoking the Muslim community, chanting whatever they were chanting, yeah? Now they're inciting, they're causing a problem, and they're actually instigating it.
But no matter what Muslims do, they cannot win here. Because even when they do the right thing by calling the police, instead of responding to the threat of hindered for violence, the police do nothing to keep the Muslim communities safe from attack. This leaves Muslims with no other choice but to fend for themselves.
I'm fuming at the police because we had to do all the police work, but we could come by. They still didn't come get a statement off him. They didn't even offer any victim support or anything. They didn't even ask for his injuries or what information. Like, surely you'd want to know, right? They've just seen how bad he was hurt. The ambulance was called. There was enough reason to say, look, he's been badly hurt. But no, they didn't even come back for that.
Naturally, this is having a traumatic effect on Muslim communities throughout the United Kingdom, who now feel like the police and their attackers are working in cahoots to add further pain to their victimisation. It's no wonder a recent report found that more than half of young British Muslims have suffered poor mental health, and around a third have had suicidal thoughts. This is the legacy of fighting a global war on terrorism by policing Muslim communities as though they were an insurgent population, a legacy made worse by the media's refusal to portray Muslims as victims of violence. This has to change, and it must change now. Anyway, that's my time for today. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we kindly ask you please support this endeavour by becoming a member of the show at patreon.com/CJWorleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow this show without your help, and we offer exclusive benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.